And we are live once again. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 226, I believe, or is it 226? To this amazing Wednesday afternoon. Thank you guys for joining us on your lunch break or wherever you may be in the world today. Give us a few seconds, stay tuned, and we will be back after our short intro from our sponsors.
TC Backer, TC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. TC Backer, TC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
TC Backer, TC Backer.
Hey, and we are back for episode 226, and I have another wonderful guest with us this awesome rainy afternoon here. We can't catch a break with the rain here, it seems like. April showers bring May flowers. My friend Tiana, Pilimai, I hope I said that somewhat correctly. I didn't want to embarrass you or myself, but Tiana got our first introduction was at Wind the Storm. She was the boss lady. If I had any issues or problems or concerns, she came to our rescue every waking moment of the day and throughout the course of the week when we were there. So Tiana, my friend, how are you and how have things been going?
I am doing so good. Since when the storm, things have been pretty busy. We are jumping right into planning the next year, and there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes for planning for the next event. So we just hit the ground running already.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. That was going to be one of my questions for you is like, okay, since you won the storm, as you guys would put it, at Win the Storm, like what's next? What's on the horizon? Like for you personally and for Win the Storm, are you staying with Win the Storm? And if so, like what does that look like if you can divulge any of that information to us?
So I'm absolutely staying with Win the Storm. I am hired onto the team, and so I can say this has been such an amazing team to work with. And I'm new to the roofing industry, and I absolutely love it. I love the people that I have had the opportunity to meet and exchange, introductions with. And some of them, you're one of them, I was able to connect on a deeper level, shared some personal connections with you there. But yeah, we just, after the event, we've just really, the next the next move is to find where we're going to have the next event, and then getting feedback from the vendors and attendees and our sponsors, and want to take it to the next level. So really just want to improve and get feedback, and
Of course.
want everyone to win. So
That's awesome. That's good. That's good. And it was such a great turnout. And not just that, but the organization of it. You guys, I thought, did a great job in such a short amount of time. And we said that like the entire week. And everybody that we interviewed or talked to on, little sidebar conversations, everybody was thrilled with the way that it went off and the way that you guys pulled it together. And then during even a hailstorm, right? Like there was a hailstorm like day 2, I think.
yeah.
And it didn't seem like it cleared out. It really didn't. I didn't see how that impacted, no pun intended. The hailstorm impacted the attendance at Win the Storm. And then just the good content. And like you had mentioned, our conversation, which should have been a podcast, which
Yeah.
is why you're on the podcast. Not that we have to talk about any of that stuff. And I totally understand, divulging, personal information online like this, because it is live and raw and uncut stuff like that. But myself, Vic, and you just had this great 30, 40 an hour conversation about life in general and the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows and stuff. And I kind of thought, we could maybe pick up a little bit, kind of where we left off. But first off, I want to bust your balls about something and call you out on something. We seriously have to work on your personal brand. I went online to just kind of do some research, to dive a little deeper into some stuff. And it's like, obviously your brand, and there's nothing wrong with it, is a mother, a wife,
Yeah.
mother to 5 beautiful children that I could see online, but it doesn't say where you work, where you worked.
I'm very secretive. I'm a closed book, and it's not, I'm actually ready to open and change that. But I've literally just been hiding behind the scenes and not letting people see who I am. The people that are in my life, I have friends in my life that I've known since kindergarten. All of my friends that I have are my best friends. I only have best friends. Everything else is just like business, but I even the people that I've done business with are like my family. So I think that I don't know how to brand that. Really, I don't.
No, I get it. And it's probably life is probably so much easier, whether you know it or not, being incognito the way that you are.
Yes. My sister calls me a Swiss Army knife that you can put me anywhere and I'll figure out and I'll master it.
No doubt.
And I blend in well everywhere. I'm in operations, and I call myself the glue of the company, of the team, because I show up for everybody in different ways, and I kind of tweak it to what they need and just show up as best as I can to support the people in my life.
No doubt. So I guess let's go back a little bit here. What and why, I guess, what did you do prior to coming to Win the Storm, and what, I guess, made you qualified to do that in the position that you hold with Win the Storm? So let's go back just a little bit. You don't have to go the whole way back, but like, why were you chosen to be the individual and the role model and the leader and put in that leadership position?
So I was originally working with SolarCon, which is a solar convention.
Okay.
And I was the coordinator and running ops there. So coordinating with all the vendors, the planning, decorations, making sure that the entire event runs smoothly. So I was already doing that. And then the opportunity came up to work with Josie, and I was just kind of doing that part-time, and then quickly got bumped up to that role as COO.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And that says a lot about you and the person that you are, that none of us have got to see yet, because you don't have a personal brand out there. But it does. And it says a lot about Josie too, because Josie is I mean, just one of the most brilliant people that I know. And I know that he thinks this along the same lines as I do, is that we have to surround ourselves around really smart people in areas that either we don't have time to do, or much smarter than us in those areas, and able to see around corners that we can't see around. So kudos and big shout out to both of you for doing such a great job and connecting at that level to be able to perform such an event that has been a staple in our industry for so long.
Yeah.
And Jana and I's first event was Win the Storm back in the day. So we've always held Win the Storm near and dear to us, as a team, as a family, just because that's where it really opened our eyes, and we felt like, okay, we're not by ourselves out here anymore. And then we also realized that there are also larger companies out there doing a lot more revenue. So it really opened up our eyes to not think so small either. You know what I mean? And then the relationships that, When the Storm has created, like the conduit for us to, I met Erico, Paul Reed, guys like that from Roofers and Recovery. I met Scott, I'm going to butcher his last name, Riapala with Interstate Roofing.
I know how to spell, but I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. Dude's a beast. Met him for the first time back in the day. And so, like I said, it's been the conduit, and you guys, complimented the originalness, of what it was intended, I think, meant to be, at least for me. You guys really just stepped up and did a phenomenal job. And I'll probably say it about 15 more times throughout the thing, because I'm still on that high. I haven't attended a show since then. So I'm still riding that high from that. And I know Vic and a couple of our other team members are also riding that high. But I got to ask you something. What was it like meeting Tim Grover?
So I read his book before I met him. And before that, I did 75 hard. I went into phase 1, phase 2, and then Andy Frisella had written a book that was based off of Tim Grover. And so then when I read Tim Grover's book, I was still working out, and I was, trying to place myself into this category of what he's explaining. And I was having a hard time because I was like, oh, I'm that person. I'm that person. I'm that person. But it's really just a choice. I can be any of those people. But when I actually got to meet him, I felt, I was excited, but he was so kind. And, meeting somebody that's a celebrity, it could go either way. And so the one thing that I absolutely loved about him was, we had taken a picture. It was kind of blurry. He's like, let's look at it. So we look at it. He's like, oh, let's take another one. Mm-hmm. We took like a couple of them, and he's like, we got to make sure it looks good. And to me, that was so deep, because he took the time for me. And as we were walking, he stopped and took a picture with every single person that wanted to. And just the engagement and just the time to connect and just do that little simple thing might not mean as much to him as it meant to me or to that person, because he's very inspiring, and what he has to share speaks volumes. So to be able to do that was really, really cool. I will never forget it. So
yeah, and I guess there's a lesson to be learned there too, with that patience that he showed. Because sometimes I get so caught up in stuff too, and I'm sure you're guilty of this as well. It's like, just to take that time, step back, take a breath, or whatever it is, and pay attention to those that are around you, and that impact that it had on you, that, to learn from that. Because I know sometimes I get so caught up in stuff, and it's kind of like, I'll stop and say hi and like shake their hand, but then keep moving on. But like they come back and say, hey, let's take another photo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That way you have a couple of them. Let's do it this way. Let's do it horizontal. Let's do it vertically. You know what I mean? And just take that time to connect, right, on a personal level. And it's like, I can learn a lot from that myself. And for those of you that may not know who Tim Grover is an award-winning writer, author, speaker, motivational speaker. I mean, if you want to call him motivational, he called himself something else. He's an elevator, not necessarily a motivational or inspirer. But winning was a book that he wrote, but he's most famous for his Relentless book that if you haven't read it, I highly recommend anyone that's in any position that just wants to get motivated in life in general, personally and professionally. I highly recommend reading the book Relentless. It's a once a year book for me. I read it at least annually for probably the past 5-6 years now. Great book. And then most, I think, importantly, where his career had started was, at least from what I'm familiar with, is that he coached Michael Jordan, but more so on like a personal coaching, motivational, and Kobe Bryant and some of the other, some other famous athletes of our time. Was he what you expected him to be? Did you expect him to be this hard, burly, solid, guy, or
No,
was it?
I went in with no expectations. I just was like, I'm going to introduce myself for sure. I wanted to meet him, but I just didn't know.
Mhm.
And he is very, very kind,
Yeah.
very welcoming, and yeah, I didn't know what to think. So I was really, really happy
Mhm.
that that's who he is, because I would now recommend any of his content. Really, I just meeting him and knowing that he's a genuine person, and then the content that he teaches, it's like it's so impactful. And because I'm so family orientated and I'm a people person, I'm a huge lover. I feel like the world doesn't have enough love, and I just think that when you can show up in that space for people in general, um, the impact is so much greater. And so I really felt that from him. So that's why I connected.
Amen. Amen. That's good. That's good, because that was the impression that I was under as well too. You guys actually gave me the opportunity to MC a marketing panel right before he came on, and so I was able to get a really good seat in the arena there. And my impression of him, now I didn't meet him as intimately as you got to meet him, so I'm a little envious, and I probably could have, but there was so much going on. We were trying to tear down, and I felt bad for Vic and everybody tearing down without my support and stuff. So I watched most of his lecture, I guess, for back lack of better terms. And man, it was so inspiring to me to actually finally meet him in person like that and be that close to him, that I think I was kind of like starstruck, because I would say, I mean, I've met Ed Milet, I've met, the Iron Cowboy, I've met Tim Tebow, but I have to say, Tim Grover is definitely, the GOAT, the greatest of all time when it comes to somebody being in that space. And I think a lot of those people that I just mentioned may be like, not necessarily chasing, but have also been inspired by his message and the impact that he's had on individuals and stuff like that. So let's go back a little bit when you were talking about 75 hard. Okay. 75 hard is a challenge for those of you that don't know what it is. It's kind of like the Fearless 44, but much harder. I feel like it's much harder
Yeah.
than the Fearless 44. Okay. So having said that isn't just something that anybody can do or handle, let alone move on to phase 2 of that. Okay. So getting through phase 1 would be difficult enough. And then you went on to phase 2 of that. And those of you that aren't familiar with it, check out Andy Frisella, or Google not Fearless, but 75 hard, and it'll tell you exactly what it is. There's an app, you can follow it, all that good stuff. Okay. Something must have been going on in your life at the time. Like you weren't happy with yourself, or something, drastic or dramatic, or something was going on in your life. Let's talk about what possessed you to become obsessed. I'm assuming because you would have to be obsessed with this, or motivated, you know what I mean? Because you definitely appear to be, focused, dedicated, and disciplined person. You would have to be. But what was going on in your life at that time? You're like, you know what? I need change. I need something different to happen here. So with 75 hard comes a huge transformation in somebody's life, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So what happened? What was going on that you needed all that?
Well, after like COVID COVID hit, and then I was just, the world changed, and I was just like stuck indoors, and like then it wasn't COVID anymore, and then everything had to pick up and go back. And I had realized I was in a space where I was just so unhappy. I was just like doing the same thing every day, and not I was just on autopilot, wasn't really living. And then I got an opportunity to work with my sister at SolarCon, and I didn't feel like I fit in for some reason. I was just like, this something doesn't feel right. Like I'm there, I can do the work, and I just need to push myself forward to a new space. And I didn't know what it was. So I actually went to this training called Impact, and my sister was like, I'll work with you if you do this. Like, we can talk after you do this training. So I did the training, and it was a life changer. But then like I felt like I got this momentum, everything was going great. I had all these really great tools to work with, but then my brother passed away, and me and my brother are so close, and he was going through a lot of hardship in his life, and normally I would have turned to drinking to cope with that. A lot of my friends were hitting me up to go drink, and I was just like, no, I don't want to grieve him that way, and I don't want to pull myself back into this hole that I worked so hard to get out of. So I just decided, and I had listened to Andy's podcast all through COVID, and I was like, he talked about 75 hard, but I never actually looked into it. And then the first attempt, I failed after the second week. And then the second attempt, I failed after like 20 days, something like that. And so this time it was different. I had a reason. So I was like, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm committed. I'm doing this. I'm going to be my word. So I promised myself I would complete it. And then I didn't want to fall back into like, oh, I'm going to go drink. So I just dove deep into 75 hard.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you, because that's not easy. I mean, Jana and I tried 75 hard. I think I was good, and I think I was in a weird season of my life at that time too, where I knew I needed something, but we were so busy, and to work out twice a day, it just wasn't going to fit, because I was traveling a lot, and I'm coming up with all these excuses right now, which I get the luxury of having today, like he would say, right? I don't know what happened, but we've completed the Fearless 44 several times. We actually did like a Fearless 88, like back to back, because there were some other people that wanted to do it, and we decided to do it with them. And I know it takes a lot of discipline and stuff like that. And it's like, and I can relate to that feeling of, not fitting in or belonging, and just kind of like out of the loop on things, and like, who am I? Who am I? You know what I mean? And that feeling, and recently I've had thoughts of, I wanted to quit doing the Fearless 44, and it was like, and there were, a few things go through my mind, and whether I'm calling myself names, or it's like everyone's going to think I'm a cop out, or I'm a quitter, and things like that. And I'm not, by no means, a quitter. Even I've failed doing the Fearless 44 and started right over again. So it was like 66 solid days of doing this, because I committed to quitting cigarettes by day 22. Like, there's 21 cigarettes in a pack, and I was going to smoke one less cigarette each day. And everybody's like, you're so dumb, because like, you're quitting. Okay. You're still quitting. I'm like, I know, but I smoked the cigarette on the day 22nd. You know what I mean? And ended up, but that's how committed and driven that I was. And I literally cried. Like, I was so upset and angry at myself that I failed. Right. That I was like, you know what, I'm going to start over. But that was such an unrealistic, stupid way to try to quit smoking cigarettes. Like, people take medication to quit smoking cigarettes. And I've been through and have quit a lot of things in my life, okay, over the years. And I have to admit, stop smoking cigarettes has been one of the most difficult things that I mean, I'm talking alcoholism, drug addiction, everything, been through the ringer. Okay. Put myself and many other people through the ringer. Okay. With my behaviors over the years. But I got to tell you, and I think the hardest part about it is that I wasn't suffering any consequences yet from it, other than smelly clothes, stinky breath, yellow teeth, things like that, that just didn't seem to matter that much to me up until that point. I was like, I'm tired of walking into a meeting smelling like cigarettes. I'm
Yeah.
tired of my clothes smelling like cigarettes. I'm tired of my teeth being stained between coffee and cigarette smoking and stuff like that. But like, was there a moment that you felt like giving up? And I'm assuming that may have been the time before 75 hard, or maybe during 75 hard. And what did you say to yourself, or what thoughts went through your mind to help you push, maybe start 75 hard, or maybe even during 75 hard? What was your thoughts, and what did you say to yourself to keep pushing? So there's two questions here. I'm sorry. Let's start with, you touched on a little bit, like, okay, I'm going to do the 75 hard because I was kind of in a weird spot in my life, but like, were you at a moment of like just giving up, quitting my career, drinking and all these things? Okay. So like, what did you say to yourself, or what thoughts did you have at that moment where you're like, okay, I'm going to do the 75 hard? What went through your mind? Your family, your kids? What was it?
So usually I avoid my feelings altogether. I'm a very like mellow person, very calm. Even in really stressful situations, it takes a lot to get me escalated, or to even like be vulnerable and open. Um, I think a part of me was like, I'm not going to just sit here and cry all day. My heart was broken. But then I just dove deep into like pushing myself forward to do something, so that I was so focused on being committed to all of the things that I was supposed to do every day, my checklist, that it was like I didn't have to focus on him passing
Yeah.
and what that really meant. So I was like, I'm going to show up for myself every single day. I'm going to do the things that I need to do to complete this 75 days. And I'm going to prove to myself that I can do it. And it was just really about being there for myself
Mhm.
and just showing up. And I remember one night, because I started this with a group of girls, um, and then they slowly, one by one, fell off. And then there was just two of us at the end. But I remember one night reaching out to them in our group chat, and I was like, guys, it's 11 p.m. I'm so tired. I had the longest day. I failed. And they were like, well, no, you didn't. You still got an hour before midnight, technically the next day. And I was like, yeah, but it's like raining outside and it's cold. And they were like, wah, wah. So I was like, damn it. Okay. So I got up and my husband's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'll be back. I have to do my workout. I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to give up. And I made this commitment and I just needed that reminder. So I just went outside and I set up my phone and I was just listening to music and dancing in the rain and just working out outside. And then I remember sending them a video of me, like I was all wet. And when I got back in, I felt so proud of myself. I was like so excited. And I was like, man, I was going to give up so easily. And then when I chose back in that moment, I was like, never again. So I completed it, no problems, hands down. Because
Mhm.
I just had to get over that first excuse of like, it's okay to fail. And it's not, because if I allow myself to just give up, then it makes it easier to give up the next time and the next time. So I mean, I'm not perfect and we all fail at things, but it was a motivation and inspiration to myself to, no matter what, pick yourself up and keep going, even through the rain, even through the weather. So,
So good. That's good. That's good. You know, and you were talking about failing, and what the first thing that went through my mind was is the only way you're going to fail is by quitting.
Yeah.
And that is a perfect example of that, right? Like we might fail, and life is a bunch of failures, right? Like I don't know how many times that I've attempted to do something and failed at it the first time, but kept going at it and kept going at it and kept going at it, and finally, succeeded at it. You know what I mean? It could be so many things. I mean, life is. I could count the victories on probably both hands, and I couldn't. This room wouldn't be large enough to stack the failures that I've had. But the difference was is that we didn't quit, right? Because I think that's really the only time that you can fail in life, in your job, in anything that we're working towards, striving towards to be a better human being. I mean, life is about failing,
Yeah.
right? And making mistakes and making errors. And we talk about this all the time on this podcast is that that's how we gain experience.
Yeah.
Whether it's identifying who we are and how far we can push ourselves, right? It's a learning curve, a learning thing, a learning about self-awareness, learning other people, and things that might light them up, or tasks that I'm trying to become something different than I was yesterday, and I'm not going to do it right all of the time, and I still say stupid things, but I identify it a lot quicker today. It's like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry, that was really dumb. But these are all things that I've learned over making so many mistakes, right? Mistakes. Like, let's not even use the word failing, because it's like mistakes, the only way we're going to fail is if we quit. And just to put that out there, because failing, I've beat myself up. I am my own worst critic, and can make myself feel like a failure. Right. And I think I even say that to myself sometimes, like, you freaking failure, and it's like, I don't want it. And I got to remind myself, if I quit doing this right now, that's the only way that I'm going to fail. If I quit doing this podcast and stop being consistent with it, or if I quit on a relationship, or if I quit on something like that, that's the only way that I'm going to fail. But I love what you said. I think that, and that's a beautiful story too. Speaking of success, like, how do you define success?
To me, success is I measure my own success based off of my growth. So I look at every day as an opportunity to grow. And so I reflect every single day. I reflect on what I did that day, the interactions that I've had with people, how I showed up for my kids, how I showed up for my husband. And I look at the ways that I could have, or for the next day that I could improve there. And I look at the value and the condition of where I'm at in every little aspect of my life. And so that's how I measure success. So I feel like I'm super successful. Whereas like some people measure their success by money, I measure my success by how I feel inside and the results that are in front of me. If my children are happy, if my husband's happy, if the people that I work with are happy and things are running smoothly, then to me, that's extremely successful.
Amen. Amen. I knew you were going to say that. That's why I wanted to ask you that question. Because success starts at home,
Yeah.
right? Like it starts at home. And so I think it was one day this week. My days were running together here. I left work a little bit early. The kids were all there, minus my oldest and his two kids, but our youngest, our middle child, Jana, and Skylar, our grandbaby, were at home. And we were kind of there was a time why I had to be at home for whatever reason. I can't even remember why, but they were expecting me to come home and make dinner. Right. I was able to shut work off, which was very difficult for me to do, and be present. So I got home at a decent time. I think I was maybe 30 minutes late. They wanted me home at 3. I think I got there at 3:30 because I ended up leaving here 15 minutes later than I wanted to. But I got there, we made dinner, we sat down. And I think even Rocket's girlfriend was there. So there was a house full of us, right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, this is success.
Yeah.
right? Because I'm actually present now. And that's something I had to work on. Like, it's one thing to leave work early and go home and not be present, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still answering the phone. I'm still checking my emails. I'm still scrolling Facebook, all of those things that I'm still guilty of today, right? But like, I made a conscious agreement with myself, right? Like, I'm going to be present. And it really wasn't that difficult. It wasn't like I was struggling the whole time where it's like, I kept picking my phone up. It was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. It was like, I got there and I just hit that switch and I was like, okay, this is family time. This is where my success begins.
Yeah.
Right. So we did dinner and stuff like that. And then yesterday, I got a phone call from Jana because Skylar and Mackenzie were at the house. They came over, and this past weekend, Rocket, Jana, and myself got the pool open. I should say Rocket and Jana got the pool open, because more so Rocket, because he loves it. Just gets in there, took the cover off, got the mixture all right and ready, and tested the water and all that stuff, and got the pump and the filters and all that stuff out there. So Mackenzie and Skylar came over and they went swimming. Well, I get a phone call, FaceTime, because Skylar, our granddaughter, wants me to either come home or do a video so I can watch her dive into the pool. And as soon as I got off the phone, the first thing that went through my head was, that's success. She wants me there. Okay. I couldn't make it. I had some meetings, unfortunately. They were a little too important to cancel, but I even thought about it for a minute. Like, can I actually get away with like canceling this to run home for about an hour to watch her dive into the pool? I couldn't, but I didn't want to beat myself up over that. But the successful part of it is that my kids actually want me there. My grandkids and my kids actually want me there. And how successful am I? Because there, at one point in time in my life, nobody wanted me around. I'll be just honest with you. Like the decade and a half ago, probably even further back than that, people just did not want me around. I was not invited to come back. It was a one and done. You've wore out your welcome, bud, and do not let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Okay. So to have people, especially my family, right? It makes me the wealthiest man. I feel like I'm the wealthiest man alive. And again, like you touched on, like, I'm not talking about money. I don't give two shits about money. Do I still get a little concerned over it sometimes? Of course, I'm an entrepreneur, right? There's a lot of people that rely on me, but it's not about how much are we lining our pockets. It's more so the impact that we're having on others, and how can we help put food on their tables. And just, they all know I'm working as hard as they are to put a roof over their heads, right? And that's another form of success that I measure how successful I am today, is like, are we able to make payroll this week? Are we able to, pay our vendors? Are we able to keep the lights on? Are we able to keep the door unlocked every Friday or every morning so they can come in and have a place to work? That is another form of success. It's not necessarily the revenue that comes in or that we fill our bank accounts with. So not to keep going down that rabbit hole, is there anything else that you want to add to that before we move on?
No.
Okay. Cool. So I was going to throw in there. So like, where does success start for you? Does it start in the morning? And if it is, like, what do you do for yourself so you can start out on a successful path for the day?
Every morning, the first thing I do when I wake up is I will read something, whether it's like self-development, a quote. I will actually like write down my dreams, and if there's something that stuck out in my dream, what it was, and then I reflect on that. Sometimes I'll even look it up, like the meanings behind our dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I will think about, like, why did that show up in my space? And then I won't dwell too much on it, but it will just stick with me throughout the day. And then I jump up, and sometimes I'll do like stretches and exercises, just like easy ones in the morning, and then get my kids up and ready for school and out the door, and then I just dive right into work. So
No, that's good. That's good. Something I just recently started. I tend to wake up with negative thoughts. I don't know what that is, like some form of like insecurity. We have a lot of moving parts. There's quite a few things that I need to be concerned about, or not concerned about, but be mindful of that. We have multiple businesses, multiple people and stuff like that. So I tend to wake up on more of an anxious mindset. So Ronnie Lawler with Avco Roofing was on last week, and he had made a comment because I asked him that same question because, most of these questions are where I'm at in my life. So it's kind of like a selfish thing where I come up with these questions, or a book that I'm reading is where a lot of our topics come from for this show. And I asked Ronnie, like, what was his morning routine? And the first thing that he does is he starts thinking positive thoughts right away. Right. And I should have asked him, like, well, give me some examples.
Yeah.
So, but what I started to do is I started to do some like positive affirmations. Right. So as soon as I open my eyes and put my feet on the floor right away, and I always say this, like that, I like to stack wins in the morning before I go out the door. And the first win that I stack is that I'm capable of just opening my eyes this morning. Right. I got to be grateful even for the smallest of things, right? So I get to open my eyes, I get to turn around, put my feet on the floor, and I get to suck a sober breath, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I just stacked 2 or 3 wins right there. I just put my feet on the floor, I sucked the sober breath, and I opened my eyes, right? So I started to add in like this positive affirmations. You are a good man. You are a good husband. You are a good entrepreneur. You are a good man.
Do you say you are, or do you say I am?
I am.
That's a difference.
No doubt. Let's talk about that a little bit. What's the difference?
Because you're saying you are as if you're not.
Mm.
When you say I am, you're claiming that I am that.
Yeah, like past tense. I was.
Yeah.
I was a good man. Yeah. No, I get that.
You are as if you're talking to someone else or an idea of somebody else.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm saying I am a good man. Right. I am a good entrepreneur. I am a good provider. You know what I mean? And those are the things I started. And what's funny is years ago, I read a book, I think it's called Make Your Bed. I can't remember the name of the author. But he talks a lot about that. And it might be a different book. I've read quite a few books over the years. But that positive affirmation, I think I'm saying that right, in the mirror, he would actually look in the mirror at himself. And I used to do that because of self-doubt. I mean, I would be lying to you if I didn't feel insecurity, self-doubt, neurosis. I'm a very neurotic person. But I try to use those to my advantage today, that quite frankly, for whether it's empathy for other people's feelings, the neurosis that, I got to get shit done and I got to get shit done now has always worked really well for me. You know what I mean? So I try to use those tools that I've been blessed with, right? Or feelings and emotions and stuff like that. And it is blessing. You're right. I want to look at it as a positive and not a negative, and use them to my advantage. Right. And with being in recovery myself, and I don't mind saying that, and because I need other people to know that hey, if you need anything, call me.
Yeah.
Right. Is that I've unfortunately have the unfair advantage of my pain tolerance is much higher than most people because I have put myself through some shit.
Yeah. I have high pain tolerance also.
Right. And that's an unfair advantage that we would have, because to be in a leadership position and tolerate certain things and work the hours that we put in. And I know you guys put a lot of hours in, whether it be SolarCon or Win the Storm. I can only imagine. And that's not for the faint of heart people to work those long hours.
No, not everyone can do it. That's for sure.
Right. And I was going to ask you earlier too, like, did you give yourself any time to decompress, or was it like done next? After Win the Storm? Are you one of them like done next? You didn't even get to give yourself a moment to relish in it? And
no, it was done next, but usually I will take a week off. But this time I didn't, and it was just go. And some of the team did take a break, but I was just like, no, we gotta keep going. I probably should have taken a day to sleep. It took me about 3 weeks to get caught up on sleep. But
no doubt. I can only imagine. Now, are you from Texas at least? So your time zone's the same?
No, I'm living in Utah right now.
Okay.
From Utah.
So you suffered probably almost the same thing that we suffered. So we came from PA, went to Utah, which is 2 hours different during a time change.
Yeah. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then flew to Texas. So we were all messed up for a while. When we got back here, it was like, I think we were actually getting caught up by the time we got back here, at least not 3 hours difference by that time. I think we were only like about an hour, really biologically. My clock was only about an hour
Yeah.
behind schedule at that time.
Well,
Now,
and this time around, I was prepared because I had been working out consistently every day, and I was hitting like anywhere from 15,000 steps a day, maybe a little bit more, in preparation for being there at when the storm, because we're hitting like over 20,000 steps. And so to prepare for that, that's what I was doing. And so, yeah, I just know like lack of sleep, lots of standing and running around.
Yeah, and that's such a great point that you brought up there is the stamina, getting your stamina up, right? And that's what you were preparing yourself. And that's where working out and eating healthy to perform at a high level, like you got to do them if you want to continuously,
Yeah.
right? Consistently work at a high level. You have to take care of your body. You have to take care of yourself first and foremost. And this might sound a little selfish and contradictory compared to what we were just saying, right? Like, so we love people, we love impacting people's lives and things like that. But first and foremost, we must take care of ourselves first, right? Because if we can't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of anybody else. It's just like when you're on an airplane, right? And the lady's describing to you with the oxygen mask and where the life thingy is under the seat and all that stuff. The first thing she says to you is put your air on first.
Yeah.
Okay. Put your air on first, then put your partner, your significant others, or your kids' mask on. The reason why they tell you that is because by the time you go to put theirs on, you may be out of air and can't even help them because you just ran out of oxygen.
Yep.
So the first thing that we have to do is we have to feed ourselves the oxygen first, right? And I always say this too, like if we can't take care of ourselves and we're acting like we're running around taking care of everybody else, now we're just playing the martyr.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's the thing, we beat ourselves up so much. And it's like, we got to take that hour a day, hour and a half, 2 hours a day, whether it's 30 minutes in the morning, reading stuff, self-affirmation, cold shower, whatever that is. And then working out, eating healthy, sleeping, rest, right? Plays a huge thing because we're trying to build that stamina up. So when we perform, like you guys performed a phenomenal show, right? 20 hours a day, 20,000 steps a day. Like if you weren't working out and preparing your mentally and physically and spiritually for that, you may not have been able, the entire team, right? May not have been able to pull off Win the Storm this year. Would you agree to that?
Yeah. The team that we have, we all are kind of like that, focused on health and fitness. There's a few that are open to the idea of it, but fit in well with us. And so because we're all very driven and work like that and live our lives that way, it definitely made things a lot easier.
Absolutely. And those people that probably aren't doing it yet are probably 20 years younger than us too.
Yes. They're already in shape.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But I find the older that I get, I got to work on my stamina, and I call it stamina. You know what I mean? It's like treadmill's good. I do treadmill. I walk, I run, I jog, I hike and stuff like that intentionally to keep that so I can work long hours, so I can attend conferences and be on the floor for 12, 16 hours. Like I have to do those things or I can't make it through it. I won't be able to do what we do, the traveling, the hours, the impact. You know what I mean? Because inspiring can be tiring.
It is.
You know what I mean? And that's the thing. So, yeah. And that's the thing, like we have to be there for others. Plus, we need to be here for our families for the longevity. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, smoking cigarettes and not working out and eating healthy, what example are we being? Okay, first and foremost, to those that are around us, right? Because we are the sum of those that we surround ourselves with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But then to not be here, it's almost like a selfish act that we do if we're not taking care of ourselves because we won't be here for the longevity for our families.
Yeah.
So it's really a selfish act by us not taking care of ourselves is the selfish part of it, not us.
It's like flows into every other aspect of your life as like showing up in working out and being healthy. You're not spending as much money on medical bills and going to the doctors and stuff, and it just becomes easier way of living. And then that flows into even in the work environment. It's better mentality, just clear-minded and just focused, and just that alone can speak volumes with people's jobs because they're able to actually do the work.
No doubt. No doubt.
Circling back to your words of affirmation,
Yes.
we gathered the Win the Storm team on the main stage the morning before. I think this was day 1. Yeah. So before the main stage happened, they were doing sound check, and I had told everyone meet me on the stage, and they didn't know why. And I was like, just meet me there at 7:30 in the morning, and we'll be there. So we got on stage, and I had the AV team play some music, and we did deep breaths, and I had them close their eyes, and then I said, think of a word that you're committed to create for this event, something that an intention that you're putting out for to happen, for the vendors, for the attendees, and for yourself. And I just yell it out. And so we did that. It was different for them. They thought it was like weird, but it's something that I do with the team because it unifies us. Plus it's putting out what we're committing as a team together. So it was like relationship building, connections, abundance, joy, just unity and acceptance, because everything was new and it was changing, new ownership. And so all of the words that were said, it literally came to be, and the conference really did exactly what we had intended to be.
I agree.
It was really cool to experience that and to have them say those things and then have it roll out that way. So words of affirmation are very powerful.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. My only regret was stopping it myself personally. And I will agree that it works because, what's the crazy thing is this morning before I was kind of in that state of sleeping where I was awake, but I wasn't awake.
Yeah.
And I'm in that state a lot throughout my sleep. I have no problem falling asleep. It's just kind of like staying asleep or getting to that realm sleep. Okay. Is where I have issues. So I was in that state where I was thinking, but I was sleeping. And I love it when it's a positive, goal oriented, focused vision, thinking thoughts, you know what I mean? That I had, because a lot of times that's why I think I wake up in that anxious, anxiety filled kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Not as far as like impending doom stuff, but just like, oh shit, I got to do this. Oh shit, I got to take care of that. Oh shit, don't forget that. Da, 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 da. Well, this morning was more so about some things that we're working on as a team. We're working real hard on, we revamped, it's taken me probably almost 4 years to revamp our core values. And I think we'll do an episode of reviewing our core values and the importance of core values, but not just having words on the wall. Okay. I went way deeper than that. It's paragraphs explaining exactly what fulfilling your fidelity means, right? Instead of just putting integrity up on the wall. Well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
Right. So I wrote this whole thing out, and then we created these KPIs and stuff, and how it all kind of intermingles harmoniously, cohesively, right? Like if you follow these core values in our mission statement, right, you shouldn't have to worry about, making mistakes. You shouldn't have to worry about, if you're living by these core values, right, it's going to minimize risk.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying mistakes aren't going to happen, but if your heart and your mind is in the right place, right, it's going to minimize, the exposure or the liability, right? It's going to minimize it. It's like almost insurance. Just live by these. And I'm not saying an accident's not going to happen, but they're going to be shrunken. It's going to be very small. And then the KPIs, right, are key performing indicators. Everybody knows what they are. So we're putting them in, and how it kind of flows over into that And there were some other things that I just wasn't real clear on yet. And it was just so funny how by doing these positive affirmations that I've been doing in the mornings, how, once you work them for a while, then they start working you.
Yeah.
Right. Like it starts working in my life. Right.
Mhm.
And this morning was a perfect example of that. Like I didn't have to force myself to think positive thoughts about myself. Like automatically, like this morning, my first thoughts like was clarity and some vision, like, oh shit, yes, that's perfect. Like that, like I don't even know if you want to call that like a paradigm shift, or whatever that was that is happening to me right now. But it was just super cool to like finally get like that clarity and this one key component that just kind of ties the core values, the mission statement, the KPIs all together in this harmonious, like if you do this, all of these will work. And then, and if all of these are working, we don't have to work so hard at the end of the year to meet our goals.
Well, that falls into line with exactly how I live my life. Is I be the things that list, that you're talking about. I be it, then I do those things, and then I have what I want. So you
Amen.
be it, do it, have it.
Yep. Amen. Exactly. I mean, and the mind is a powerful, powerful thing. And that goes into positive thinking versus negative thinking, right? If you're continuously thinking and complaining, thinking negative things and complaining all the time, negative things are going to happen. It just, even health issues,
Yeah.
right? Down to your health, your mentality, everything, just your health declines and all kinds of things. If you're just
That's
negative,
another affirmation. You're affirming those negative things.
100% works the exact opposite way too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're continuously thinking good, positive thoughts and looking for the solution instead of staying in the problem, the solutions come a lot quicker, but then less bad things start to happen because the way that you're looking at things is like, why is this happening to me versus this? Why is this happening for me?
Yeah.
At this moment. And that's something Ed Milet talks about in one of his books. He's got 2 great books out too that I highly recommend reading. At least a yearly thing. If you haven't already read them, read them. Ed Milet's got 2 books out. And he talks a lot about why are things happening for me instead of like, why is this happening to me? Woe is me kind of thing. And I've been talking about this a lot on my lives. It's like, it's funny when you start thinking, switching your thinking to positive thoughts of like, okay, why is this happening for me right now? You may not know what that is at this moment. And it doesn't have to be clear. Just know something good, whether it's a lesson learned or man, like something good is just going to come out of this right now. I know it's the most worst thing. Is it going to, push us to create another system or process? You know what I mean? Is it going to make us buy, better insurance? Is it going to help us put another KPI in place? Like there's something good. A lesson is going to be learned regardless of whatever that situation is, no matter how horrible that situation is. And this is the sad reality of it is bad things are going to happen to good people regardless. Life happens.
Yeah.
But how we deal with it and our perspective on it is what makes the difference.
Definitely. So there was this incident, and this is just like a perspective of that. In 2017, my daughter got hit by a car, and just an accident. Like my daughter ran out into the street, the car hit her. And most people's reactions to that would be like really upset at the driver, right? Saying the worst things or, blaming and shaming or whatever. When I had arrived on the scene, my daughter, obviously, she had to get life flighted out, but I went over to that mom and I just hugged her. And she was, like shocked because who does that? And I thought back a million times, like, should I have reacted that way? But I hugged her so like deeply. And I was like, because I couldn't imagine what it felt like to be her, like she knows what it felt like to be me. Like, cause that, that those are 2 different shoes, but I just felt so bad that she had to live with that. So, I forgave her instantly, and just the way that I have interacted with her and carried myself through life that way um, I've just been able to see things happen for me and not to me. Like,
Hmm.
I could have said been a victim in there and called my daughter a victim, and I didn't like, I never even let her be a victim. I was like, "You're not a victim, like, you got hurt, and what did you learn from that?" You know? Don't run into the street without looking both ways. So,
Right.
yeah, it was really cool, and I still am in contact with her till this day. So, just another way that connections happen in strange ways.
Yes, they do. I was going to ask you, are you still in contact with the lady driving that car?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
So, she visited us at the hospital and she made a donation. We had a GoFundMe for her back then, and she brought her a whole bunch of stuff to the hospital, and she felt really bad, and I just said, like, it's okay, she's okay. And like, even if it was very tragic and that she didn't make it, I would have responded the same way.
No
Because
doubt. So is your daughter okay
yeah,
today?
yeah, she like, she had suffered severe concussions, and she had a broken femur, and so she was in a wheelchair, and she had rods in her leg for 6 months. So that was an interesting healing process to do
Wow.
that with her. She was in therapy, physical therapy, but she's a rock star, and she plays sports now. So she's in a team captain
Mhm.
in basketball and volleyball. So she's
Love
on the
it.
varsity team. She does great. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Love it.
she's a really tough little girl. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so cool that you handled it that way, because you could have let that manifest in, like you said, playing the martyr, playing the victim, playing all this, but the
yeah,
positive may not have appeared, right? That what the relationship that was developed, the lessons that was learned for all three parties, right? Your daughter, yours, and this woman. So maybe she drives more cautious now. Maybe your daughter uses that adversity every time she comes up against something difficult right now. It's like, this is not as nowhere's near as bad as when I was laying in the hospital bed for 3 weeks or whatever it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are moments that define us as human beings, and that's really cool that you handled it that way, because that could have set your life on a whole different trajectory,
oh yeah.
right? Where you just went down this negative path and stayed there for months, years, shit,
Well, and I
decades.
could have dragged her down with it, like, made her a victim by telling her those things,
Mm,
and just totally putting her down into this category and this label, and I just was like, "No, you're not gonna be that." And I didn't know if she was gonna limp, or if she, like, one of her legs is longer than the other now,
mm,
and so we just make ways to make it work. But I just was like, if I keep her there, what is that going to do to the rest of her life?
mhm,
And, it was hard because she was in a school that was athletic based at the time at this academy. And so she was kind of bullied because she was in a wheelchair, and that's not very common in a athletic school. So
mhm.
I just was like, there's kids that just don't understand what you're going through, and that's just where they're at, but that doesn't mean that's who you are. You are different. You are in a different situation. You can't walk. You got hit by a car. Do they know what it's like? No. They will never know unless it happens to them. And, God forbid that ever did. Like, it's unfortunate that this happened to you, but guess what? We get to use this and learn from it and grow, and you're going to be a lot stronger than a lot of those kids because you've experienced so much pain.
Amen. Amen. That's so good. You're
She's
so true.
the toughest little girl I've probably ever met. So,
No doubt. I can only imagine.
yeah.
I can only imagine. So we're at an hour and 4 minutes, but before we get off here, I got one more last question for you.
Okay.
If you had the opportunity, um, what would you say to your younger self right now?
Trust myself that I'm enough, that I didn't need other people to be who I wanted to be.
Yeah, that's so good.
That I'm enough.
Yeah, that you're enough and that you are. Yeah, no, that's so good. I just wanted to, I felt like as we were talking, I thought, that would be a good question. Like what would I don't even know what the hell I'd tell myself right now if somebody asked me that question, but that you're enough because as, like you said, as kids growing up, and people pick on us and the codependency and things that we struggle with and that weren't maybe even identified back then. um, at least for my age group of people, there were so many things that were going on, and it was like, okay, he's just hyperactive. All right,
Mm.
put him on Ritalin or whatever like that. Like, OCD and ADHD and all those things weren't recognized, and I don't know how true most of that stuff is or whatever, anything like that. But I think if I suffered, and I think I do, I've never been diagnosed medically, but self-diagnosed probably OCD, right? I've learned to use that to my advantage. You know what I mean? Under certain circumstances and daily life's, task and things like that. But yeah, I mean, you are enough. Everybody is. You are enough. Like we don't need somebody else to say we're good enough, right? Whether it's a parent, a loved one, significant other.
Well, I just struggled like growing up. I mean, I was friends with everybody. Everyone was my friend, even people that other people bullied. Those kids that got bullied, they were my friends. Like the kids that had special needs, they were my friends. Like the popular group, those are my friends. I made friends with everybody, and I wanted to be liked by everybody. And then at the same time, I didn't care if anybody liked me. It was a strange mixture. But at some point I was like just this fearless person. I was never scared to like say what I thought or felt. And then something just changed, and I just went down this wild teenager path and just forgot. Like I was just so busy like fitting in with everybody and like partying, hardcore partying, and just didn't care that I lost who I was. And then I didn't feel like I was enough. And I was like, oh, because trying to fit in with so many people, that's a big job.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And I forgot who I was. And so I didn't think I was enough. And then like got into like really awful relationships that didn't serve me. And then me like I fed that belief that I wasn't enough. And then it just snowballed, and I just believed it so much that I allowed myself to be treated this way by people. And so I just got beat down so bad that I just stayed there. And so now, I was like, I'm hiding. No, I don't want people to see me. But um I'm I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm ready. I guess I'm as ready as I'll ever be. I'm an open book. Like you ask me a question, I'll be honest with you. I don't have anything to hide, and I feel like everything that I've ever experienced in my life is very valuable, and all of the lessons that I've learned, I would never undo those, even though it was really hard to go through them. But I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't experienced all those things. And at the time, they felt hard. But now, when I am faced with something that feels hard, it's a flag that goes up, and it's not even a red flag. It's a green flag saying, this is money. This is valuable. This is pay attention, because if it's hard and it's stopping you, that's where you need to focus and learn from that. It's telling me that there's something very valuable there to pay attention to so that I can grow.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen to that. It's happening for you, not to you.
Yes.
For sure. And it those are the things that define us as human beings. We can stay in that, stay stuck and
Yep.
let that define us, and be that, not as productive person. I don't want to use too many key choice words that I'd like to use in that, where we stay a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Right. or we can allow those experiences to elevate us, to inspire other people. Like, hey, you don't have to let this happen anymore. You are enough, right? Like, you don't need other people's acceptance, right? And you don't need other people to be who you want to be today. You know what I mean? You got to find yourself. It's self-awareness, and using those experiences that we've gone through in life as a benefit to who we are today, in order to have an impact, a positive impact on other people's lives today. And that's the key to any success, right? Is success is measured by how many people that we impact positively, not necessarily the bank account. You know, touching on that again, like we talked about earlier, it's like, that's how you measure success. Is, you know, it's the hundreds of people, not the hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
Right? If we're going to measure it, like, let's impact hundreds of people, right? Like that's life's silver bullet. If anybody wants to know the silver bullet to success, is impacting other people's lives. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them, opposed to you taking care of yourself. So you're in a great mental, mind, body, spiritual shape to be able to help people, right? You know, serving others is the silver lining, to the silver bullet to all of this that we're talking about today. So
Well, that's why I always smile. I actually, it's just who I am. I smile all the time. Even if I cry, I smile. It's silly, but I find the humor in things, and I just genuinely know that a smile can make a difference in somebody's life, and the impact that I have on people's lives has been spoken to me by many people, and that I feel like I've lived my purpose and enjoyed that. So
no doubt. Well, you inspired me enough to ask you to come on the show with our conversation that Vic and myself and you had out there. I was like, and I think Vic may have said something to me before. I was thinking it, but he said it first. He was like, dude, we got to get her on the show. And the timing wasn't
really
right.
excited when you asked me. I was nervous the first time, but
yeah. Well, we wanted you to come on the big show. This is our Wednesday night, you know, weekly show where we get the most, you know, impact. I feel, not that we don't at the 10, 15, 20-minute little clips that we do at the conventions, but this is where, you know, right now, I think we have, you know, 10, 15, 20 people watching right now. But the replays and the you know, the people catch us on the replays and stuff like that, tens of thousands of people will watch this. This is where our impact is, and this is how this platform, we've used this platform for that purpose, is the impact. It started out, you know, to plug one of our charitable events that we did locally, is how the podcast got started. We had no idea how to like get it out into the public's eye. Like, hey, we're hosting this you know, a silent auction to help a nonprofit organization. And someone suggested doing a Facebook Live, and it was like, oh shit. So this whole thing like started out with, you know, trying to have an impact on people's lives, and those that take the time out of their day to sit here and listen to us for an hour or so. Most of them are people that tune in weekly. Like, it's the same people. It's our people that are just dying to hear that, what you have to say. Hopefully I can come up with good enough questions to pull some good stuff out of you. You know, because this isn't about me. This is all about you and the impact that you're going to have on people. We're just kind of the conduit to get you there.
Yeah.
You know? So
well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and inviting me onto your show.
Yeah.
So.
No, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate our viewers, our watchers, our listeners. Don't forget to check out next week. I will be in Cayman. It's going to probably be quite a few guests that'll be on. I'm going with a great group of men to Cayman, from Tim Brown, Eric O, Mike Claudio, Joe Huffman. I mean, I'm going with some pretty heavy hitters. I'm probably the lowest man on the totem pole with the group of men but I got to do that. I got to step outside my comfort zone and surround myself around
not the lowest.
Much higher performing people, so I can elevate my game here a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on, and thank you for everybody for listening today, and have a great week, rest of your week, everybody. And check us out next week at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm not sure what time that will be in Cayman, but we'll make sure that we're 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week. So thank you guys.